What's up everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos, you will learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies and also see where we are buying and selling these cryptocurrency assets ourselves. So let's get into it here with Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. We've got tons to talk about today. So Bitcoin on the monthly time frame just ran into this R3 yearly pivot right here up at about $63,200. You can see that we had this almost a doji candle here where the open and the close were very close together. Typically when you see something like this would typically be seen as probably a spinning top, and that would signify the end of this run right here. And so what that would be telling us is this run up in price that we had right here would be momentarily over while we come down to set a monthly higher low in comparison to this monthly low down here, down in September. And so for that to be the case, you can see I have this labeled right here with the blue line. We're going to need to see a break of the previous April low, which is down here at 47K. And so if we go to the weekly time frame, we can get a little bit more clarity on that. And we can see that that's the weekly low that we set last week. So this low right here, if that gets broken over the course of the next few weeks here in May, that will tell us that a monthly high has been set right here. And we will know that therefore we will now be going down to set a monthly higher low, most likely. So a couple things to note on the weekly time frame though. The weekly time frame is kind of trying to go against what the monthly time frame is telling us. So we're having two conflicting results here. The first is in the monthly, it's looking bearish if you're looking at just the monthly time frame. The weekly is looking pretty bullish. And the reason we think that is because we have this confirmed hidden bullish divergence on the weekly time frame with a lower low in the RSI and a higher low in price. So that's telling us that this low has strength and people are buying this dip. And you can see that with the weekly candle that we have going right now, which closes in 2 hours and 34 minutes. It would not surprise me if this candle closed very similar to the way it is now, with a short upper wick, signifying that the following week will most likely trade up above that weekly high, which is currently up right now at about 58,609. And so if we're looking at the weekly time frame, we're saying, okay, most likely we'll probably make a move up to at least the R3 pivot up here to about 63K or 63.2 roughly. If we continue this weekly trend the way that we are, and if in 2.5 hours we close the weekly candle with a nice bullish candle, next week we're going to need to see follow through if this bullish candle closes like this. If we see this bullish candle close like this and then next week we form like a doji candle and we don't go up very far, or we worse dump below this low, this could end up being a very strong resistance for us that we'll have to keep an eye on, because then we'll be looking to set a weekly bearish trend, and that would be with our high, low, lower high somewhere below this low, or I'm sorry, somewhere below this high, and then a dump down below for a lower low, and we would have to close 2 candles below this key low right here. So this is a very key low to watch over the next coming weeks from last week on that dump. A lot of selling on that dump, meaning that there's a lot of stop losses above this key high. So if we do end up coming up, that's going to be a level to keep an eye on, because if we do go past that, that will trigger people that are going short to close their short positions, meaning they're going to have to buy their Bitcoin back, which will push the price up even more. And so that will cause the price to rise pretty significantly. So if we go down to the lower term time frame, so let's go to the 2-day first. If we go to the 2-day, actually let's go to the 3-day first. 3-day time frame. So the 3-day time frame had this really nice pushback up from our high. So right now we're kind of trying to change the 3-day trend to being in the bull's favor, and for that to happen, we're going to need to set a high, lower high in comparison to this one, then a higher low in comparison to this one, and then a higher high. So it would not surprise me if we need another day and 3 hours for this candle to be set as a 3-day high, and then subsequently we go down to try and set the higher low somewhere above this low down here at about 47K. The 2-day time frame is giving us a little bit of clarity here in terms of the resistance level we're dealing with. This is a trade that I talked about on the channel that turned out to be nice and profitable as this level held. Excuse me. And that was this candle right here. And this candle, this candle right here was our bull trend right here. So we had our low, high, higher low, higher high with 2 candle closes above this key high. This is the last candle where people were selling. So when we come into it, it should have acted as support. It did not. We pushed right through it. Therefore, when we came back up into it right here and we touched the bottom wick of it, we rejected off of it about 7%. And then we subsequently rose back into it here, which is good for the bulls. Excuse me. So this 2-day candle was very bullish here. But in 2.5 hours, this is going to close with pretty much a bearish candle, in my opinion. And so I would not be surprised if the weekly looked really good on the close. But then on the 2-day time frame and below, we saw something like this, where it looks more like a bearish candle. And then over the next 2 days, I would expect to move down into this blue zone, which is where I anticipate that we will set a higher low in comparison to this low down here set on the previous 2-day candle. So let's go to the daily time frame and look at that trade. All right, so we're on the daily time frame. If we look at the daily time frame here, we have a very, very, very clean bull trend. Very, very clean. So we have a low, high, higher low, and then higher high with 2 candle closes above this key high. Very, very clean. You rarely get price action that looks this good in the world of crypto. And so this level right here, there's only 2 scenarios for this level, okay? It's very, very simple. The first scenario is the scenario that I think is the most likely. And this scenario is where we're coming down into this zone. We're bouncing off of this zone. We're setting a higher low right here in comparison to this low right here on April 29th. And then we are going to go up from there. Okay, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is we go right through this zone. We close 2 candles below this zone. Then we come back up and test this as resistance. And then we go down below this blue line and we go to set our monthly. Higher low somewhere down there. So those are the only 2 scenarios for this. We're either going to bounce right here, or we're going to go right through this, and it's going to be very strong resistance. But this zone is the candle to watch. This is the candle to watch. This price action does not get cleaner than this. It is extremely apparent to everyone that knows how to trade support and resistance that this candle is the candle to watch. And therefore, if we come back into the zone, it will either act as very strong support on the first test, or the price will do something very similar to what it did with this gray level. So let's look at an example of that, where we had a clear bull trend here, very, very clear, very clean price action here as well, and then right through this zone. You see that, how it went right through this with a big black candle, closed below it here with these candles, and then came back into it right here, rejected off of it initially. That's a profitable trade right there that I took. These levels play out 9 times out of 10 in my opinion. And so none of this is financial advice. Obviously, everything is for educational purposes only, but this is the level that I am currently watching. I have my bids down here on the top of the wick of this candle, right around 55,250, and then another one on the body of the candle, which is right around 54,895. The pivot level, if we look at we have the pivots indicator on. The risk to reward ratio for this trade is pretty good, even if we just go up to this R1 pivot right here, which is up at about 66.3. It's about a 4 risk to reward, which is very good for me. I like to see that with a 20% profit potential. And then, like I said, the pivots, right now we're bouncing off of the daily pivot level here. You can see that the longer lower wick of this daily candle is looking pretty good for bullish continuation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we will get it just because we have that wick, because time frames like the 2-day are looking, more bearish. And so these time frames are the ones that matter more. The higher time frames matter more. So ultimately, if you're really only basing it on one time frame, you'd be looking at the monthly and you would say, this is bearish. I'm not going long anywhere inside of here. I'm going to wait until we can get a valid short entry, and then I'm going to short that to look for a monthly high to be set right here. That's if you're taking that perspective, that makes complete sense to me, and I would never judge you for that. If we look at the lower time frames here, the 12-hour time frame, it's a bit messy in here because I have a couple things drawn on the chart. The main resistance levels that we're looking at, let's turn this on to just show up on the daily time frame. Oh, this is on the hourly time frame? Why do I even have this on? Turn that off. So if we're looking at this, the 12-hour resistance, if we go higher, is going to be this kind of zone up here where these yellow boxes are. So this yellow box right here is actually a 4-hour resistance from over here. If we look, it's this white candle over here. That's going to be a resistance level most likely. And then we have this other bigger yellow resistance level, which is on the 12-hour time frame right here where we broke down. And so those are the levels that are up here at around, they're around 60K, right above that gray zone. So about 59.5 up to about 62.1. So I would expect the first test of this to most likely hold as resistance. If we look at the 12-hour time frame as well, there's also something interesting that's setting up that might end up just playing out, and we might not even get this entry in the dark blue here, and that is this inverse head and shoulders pattern right here. Now the target for this inverse head and shoulders pattern is the head up to the neckline, and so we can measure that up to right about here, which is about $9,500. So when we take that measurement, we apply it to the top of the neckline, pull that up, $9,500 takes us roughly to about 66K, right about the all-time high level. So that would be a pretty nice move in price if we do end up getting that. I would anticipate ETH maybe pulling back if we get that, just because the Ethereum, well, maybe Ethereum will just follow suit and Ethereum will just continue to pump like it has. It's almost up at $3,000 already, so it would not surprise me. If that continued, as the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, like we talked about on yesterday's video, looks very juicy. If you haven't already checked that video out, you can check that out right above here, and you can see what my thoughts are on the long-term trend of Ethereum to Bitcoin, because I think that we're seeing something pretty interesting play out there that is worth taking a look at. Let's go to the 4-hour real quick, and then we'll be done with this video, and we will let you all go off and analyze the charts for yourself. The resistance level that we're currently operating on is this white candle right here. And so this white candle right here is our resistance zone that we're looking at. We can color this, let's color this yellow. And this is the level right here where we had this 4-hour bear trend right here. The high, low, lower high, and then lower low. We came into this zone already once, rejected off of it. Now what happened was we actually just set a 4-hour hidden bullish divergence right here, with our RSI making a lower low right here, but price making a higher low right here. So that might push us through this zone in the coming hours and days. We'll see what we end up getting. I would not be surprised if we do end up just continuing this trend upwards, but if we look at things like the trend following indicators like the Ichimoku cloud, it seems like it's still got a little bit of time to work itself out here. If we go to like the 12-hour time frame, Ichimoku cloud not really looking very good. It's just kind of choppy, not much going on here. So don't necessarily know what's going to happen with that in terms of a strong trend establishing itself. But those are the levels that I'm watching. The daily time frame, really the only entry that I'm looking for right now. So that's what we're seeing. I hope this was helpful for you. If you like this video, I guarantee you will like our beginner technical analysis course that we just released on lutheria.com. You can find a link for a description for that you can find a link for that in the description below. We talk about everything from market structure to identifying bullish and bearish trends, how to use that to your advantage as a trader and investor, how to use things like technical indicators, using volume, and a ton of other interesting stuff. So definitely check that out. And until next time, onward and upward.